Get creative with advertisements. One thing that you can say, you don't have to meet all of these job requirements. Women in a study would only apply for a job if they met 100% of the job description. Men will apply if they meet 60%. So you could be missing out on a lot of great females.
There comes a time in every business when you can't keep doing everything on your own. But how do you hire great people and keep them with you, especially when budgets are tight? Hello, I'm Natasha Mitchell, and today my guest, Ronda Robinson, who's a certified professional in talent development and a master performance consultant, is going to be sharing how to attract and retain the best talent, even if you just have a small business. Ronda has worked in talent development for over 20 years, and helping others learn and grow is in her DNA. She's highly regarded and an award-winning thought leader and keynote speaker in the talent development space, and has been recognized for accelerating performance for a spectrum of companies large to small, and has been featured on NBC, CBS, Fox News, and USA Today. She's the founder of Retain My Team and Legendary Leaders Club, which are both cutting-edge technology solutions with a people-first orientation, and they blend neuroscience, how the brain works, the art of performance, how people work, and a splash of creative thinking that helps organizations demonstrate that they care about and value employees, and helps them attract the best talent and develop strong, empathetic leaders. Welcome to the show today, Ronda.
Thank you, Natasha. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a great conversation today. Hiring and retaining talent is always a challenge, especially for small businesses. And it seems to be getting harder and harder in the market that we're in today, when people have so many options available to them. So let's jump in. You've been in the talent development space for over 20 years now. What drew you to this field, and why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, it's a great question, Natasha, and I get that question quite a bit. As I mentioned before, it's in my DNA. I come from a line of teachers in my family. And, teachers always want to see people learn, grow, and prosper. And when your students go on to do great things, you kind of feel like you're a part of their journey. And I've just always been drawn to that. When I was in grade school, I was the one that the new kid was paired up with to help show them the ropes and help them get comfortable. And as I progressed into my own job career, I always found myself in a position of training new employees or excelling at certain aspects of my job, and then sharing those best practices with others. So I don't know, I just love people. And if I can give back, I know I've appreciated when folks have helped me along the way. And I just feel like giving back is a part of what I can do.
Yeah, and I think as business owners and entrepreneurs, there sort of is that inherent DNA where we want to teach, we want to lead, and we want to help other people succeed. So it's no surprise to me, as I know you and know who you are, that your caring nature comes out in that way, and helping people learn and succeed is so important. And you've specifically chosen the area of talent development. Why do you think that the talent development space is so important in any kind of organization?
It's the heartbeat of the organization. If you're not growing and your people aren't growing, how can your business grow? Mm-hmm. If everything stays the same, I mean, the head of the company never stays the same. They're always looking to innovate and grow and change and adapt. So if you can help support your people in the same manner, then the whole organization prospers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that analogy of people are the heartbeat of an organization is sometimes overlooked. And it sort of raises the question a little bit more in today's environment. I really see that the traditional viewpoint or the traditional attitudes of what it means to be an employee has been changing dramatically over the last few years. I know when I was coming up through the ranks in the corporate world, it was almost like the company was doing me a favor if they hired me. And you've worked for some of the big top name companies, and so have I internationally. And it always felt like, oh, like they're doing me such a favor to hire me. And when you go in with that mentality, whatever the company wants to do, you're willing to do it. If it's working 60 hours a week, you're doing it. If you're putting up with a lot of politics and bad behavior in the organization, you kind of just take it on the chin and run with it. But I really see, I'll just say, a shift in mentality over the last few years. Employees have a lot more choices, and they're demanding more and looking for more fulfillment in their jobs and lives. What do you think the implications of this shift are, and how are you seeing companies adapting to the changing needs and desires of their employees?
Oh boy, this is a real tipping point in work culture. And it's a phenomenon that I'm surprised more companies haven't grasped yet. It was originally just an amazing marketing campaign by corporations everywhere that it's a privilege to work for us.
Mhm.
And employees are seeing through that veiled attempt right now. And the narrative has completely flipped. So instead of it's a privilege for you to work for us, no, it's a privilege to have me work for you. And that attitude and actually demonstrating that you value your employees is what is all retention and attraction of employees is all about right now.
Mhm.
And as the sooner companies will understand that and change their narrative, the faster they're going to get up to speed with attracting and retaining talent.
Yeah, and I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens over the next few years. The current world affairs and pandemic, we're seeing people exiting out of senior positions in many cases and saying, hey, to be gone with the working all 24/7, life's more important. And there's a lot of openings now coming up in the organizations. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how employers really do start to adapt to that changing world. And love to hear your thoughts on it, but from an outsider view, it looks like it's still a pretty big ship to turn, with a lot of old thinking about the attracting and hiring employees, and really what organizations are expecting from their employees.
Yeah, and I think that is, at least in this small window of time, where small companies can gain an advantage and get the talent that they're looking for. Why? Because, as you mentioned, even up to senior leadership roles, they are no longer tolerating this idea of, the pump and grind every day for what? Little recognition, maybe a few extra bucks. Many are seeking a more entrepreneurial environment. They're even thinking about going out on their own, but a lot of people either, need more stability. They want to work for someone, but they still want to have a feeling of being a part of an organization. So currently, the attitude is more of a parent-child relationship, employer to employee. No, it now needs to be adult-adult. And so as a small business owner, as long as you can carry that conversation when you're trying to attract talent, that's the opportunity to snatch up high potential or even highly experienced people, because that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And as entrepreneurs ourselves, we know that's so important. And it's so refreshing in my own business, to be able to run things the way I want to and utilize my talents and skills I want to. So for organizations to be able to tap into that and really utilize people's potential, I think larger companies are going to have a great opportunity. And for entrepreneurial companies, as you said, like, think in even a bigger advantage right now, because they haven't been stuck in some of those traditional ways. And I think that's a great lead into sort of the next part of the conversation is, so a lot of the audience listening and watching the podcast are small to medium business owners, and maybe they're ready to start hiring team members, but they've never done that before. Where would they start, and what sort of things should a small business owner be taking into consideration when they're making those hiring decisions?
Yeah, that's always the $1 million question, right? And just kind of taking it as an overarching general question. The first thing is decide where you need help. What can you delegate that maximizes your time and your skill sets?
Mhm.
You don't want to hire someone just like you unless you need someone to do everything that you're doing right now, but that's not likely the case. You need people to do the things that you don't like to do, you're not that great at, or that just for the sake of time aren't being done right now. So decide what types of tasks needs to be accomplished and then what you're looking for in those skills. Like for me personally, I dislike administrative stuff. All of the bookkeeping, all of the, anything administrative is not for me. I'm more of the creative, sales, face of the organization, reaching out to people kind of person. So I don't want someone like me, otherwise nothing will get done. Those things that I need done won't get done. Then after that, think about the fit for your organization. And there's three things: location, organizational culture, and the job. So we already kind of talked about the job and what that entails. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. So location, does someone physically need to be on site? Is it remote? Is it a blend of both things? Do they need to travel? The location is really important. Even if it's a commute, if they do need to be on site, what are the physical demands of that part of the decision?
Mhm.
As far as organizational culture, when you're by yourself, you say, I want to maintain this culture. Well, what is that? You know? So don't hire for what you have, hire for what you want. If you want to, in your future company, have a very vibrant, effervescent, energetic culture, hire someone with that personality. Even if they're in the back office, in front of the computer doing spreadsheets, if they're a fun, effervescent person, that's a good fit. If you're looking for ultra integrity, ethics, mindfulness, timeliness, then hire for that.
Mhm.
If you're looking for a quiet company, if you just want everything to be calm, then hire for that. Think about what you want in your circle. And then coming back to the job. So, yes, you need to hire for things that need to get done right now. But as a small business owner, there's always more work to be done than even your current to-do list, you know, offers. So think about the type of person that is hungry to grow. And as the new manager, invest in them. It's easy to get caught up in doing your own work and not giving feedback and coaching and developing your new hire. But if you hire someone hungry, they can probably take on and wear more hats than what you originally hired for. If they're good at the job you hired them for, as you grow, they can take on more responsibilities. You can hire someone else to fill them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing that employees are really thirsty for right now is development opportunities. So by all means, consider the person that doesn't meet all of your qualifications, but has aptitude.
Yeah, I like that. So fit, skills, and opportunity for growth. And I think that's going to tie in quite nicely to what I'm about to ask you now, which is we know that the talent pool is getting tighter and tighter out there. It seems like, as I say, because people are demanding more or going out on their own and being entrepreneurs themselves and running their own business. So, finding great talent is really hard. So some of the things we've already talked about is giving people growth opportunities, making sure people feel part of something. How else could a small business owner compete for great talent, especially when they're on a tight budget?
I think just appealing to the sense of people's frustrations right now. Get creative with your advertisements. If you know that the general public doesn't want to work in a stuffy environment, that they don't want to be treated per se like a child, if they want to have all of this autonomy and they want to have relationships and they want to be treated fairly, appeal to that. Put that in your advertisement. Small business owner looking for someone who wants to grow with the company, who wants to do more than just stay in your lane with your job, that wants to contribute to a business, that wants to be a true partner in business decisions, wants to be heard. Appeal to those things. You could get someone who is a really seasoned, talented person who is tired of their current situation and say, that's what I'm looking for. So I think having the courage to just put it out there and say it like it is to appeal to these folks. On the flip side too, appeal to the up and comers. A lot of college folks are having a real hard time finding a job that suits them. Number one, because they also have higher standards for how they want to be treated. So one thing that you can do as well in your advertisement, say, you don't have to meet all of these job requirements. This is ideal. In particular, this is a statistic that I think everyone should know. Women in a study would only apply for a job if they met 100% of the job description. Men will apply if they meet 60%. So if you don't know that, you could be missing out on a lot of great females who just are self-limiting for whatever reason based on the study. So just say, hey, this is what we're looking for, but please apply if you meet most of these, and let's talk.
Yeah.
And invite more people to the table.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I hadn't really ever thought of it from the job position advertisement, but I agree, like actually being more flexible with that. And I am noticing just in general, some job descriptions are a little bit more general, are a little bit more playful rather than the stuffy, you must have this and you must have that. And I even know in my own experience in the past, I don't necessarily I do have a business degree, but I don't necessarily hold a coaching qualification or a specific HR qualification. And yet my experience in the business world has been so extensive that I've had roles in HR and leadership and a variety of different areas, training and development. I don't have a training and development certification, but I've created multi-million-dollar programs for companies. So I love what you said about being more general. And for me as an entrepreneur, I'm looking for work experience far more than a formal qualification. Obviously, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, those things are very relevant, but an engineer, we don't want the bridges falling down. But I think for so many jobs, again, there's so much like, you must have this qualification, must have that. I've seen people come in with all kinds of like training specialist degrees and they can't do anything, whereas someone who's just like a great thinker, great teacher, has a good eye for graphic can kill in a job like that. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah, I think what we're both saying is look at people as a whole person rather than a line item of skills on a resume versus lined up with the job description.
Yeah.
I think that because who you are today is not who you're going to be tomorrow. Same thing for the people that you're hiring. What they are today doesn't mean this is what they're going to be tomorrow. Yeah. And especially if you are a business owner who does want someone to give their all and help you grow, then you got to take a chance on someone who is here and will grow with you and with the organization.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And the last takeaway that I sort of heard in that discussion, I really think that although people want their bills to be paid and have a nice lifestyle, there are other things that are deemed valuable to people in this day and age, such as flexibility, ability to work remotely, ability to go off and pick up their children if they need to, party or perk, at work as well. So it does seem like there's light at the end of the tunnel for entrepreneurial communities, even if you don't have a big budget. I think it's important to pay people still. I think what goes around comes around, but it does seem like there's lots of different ways to attract people. That's not all about the money.
Yes. And one more important really important thing is there is a growing body of evidence and research showing that about 80% of employees who are looking to leave or have left their job right now did so, A, because they didn't feel appreciated, and B, because they didn't feel like their current employer is very empathetic. Everyone's going through so much in the last 2 years and currently still. And to have this attitude that your personal life is left at the door when you show up for work, whether it's in your own home or at an office, is ridiculous. People are still people and their life still goes on, whether you're clocked in or clocked out. And when people find and are working for an empathetic employer, it takes up to 20% of additional salary to pull them away. So for the small business owner, if you can create that empathetic, I care about you as a person environment, it will take quite a bit of money to pull them away from you because people value that. They feel safe, they feel secure, and they'll give you their all if you just care about them as a person.
Yeah. And I know that that's what you're really passionate about. And even your programs go deep into that whole concept of empathy and care. And, it almost seems like it's such the obvious solution, and yet it's so overlooked. So
it is a lot of the reason. I think most leaders, managers, they truly do care about their employees. The interesting thing, though, is that, we judge ourselves based on intent. We judge others based on their actions. Yeah. So as a leader, if I intend to be empathetic, if I intend to show that I care, but I never demonstrate that through my actions, then everyone else would be judging me saying, well, she's not a very empathetic leader. She doesn't really care. And so when you're short-staffed, you're a growing organization, things are changing, you're so busy just trying to get stuff done. For some reason, we're not prioritizing, demonstrating that we are aware and care about other people. And so this attitude of it's not an empathetic environment seems to perpetuate itself. Yeah. We need to prioritize that, just like you would if you decide that you're now going to start getting more exercise. You have to prioritize it and fit it into your already busy day. Right. Same thing with just little touch points of showing employees that you do actually care.
And to that point, we started to talk about the leader and the role that they play. A lot of small business owners don't come with an extensive management background or haven't worked in the big corporate world, or perhaps they've never even led team before. What are a few things or a few ideas you could share with people that could help them be the best leaders they could be? And probably actions, could be words. What sort of things do you think me as a good leader could demonstrate to my employees?
I would write down 5 things and just do this every day to the best of your ability. We already touched on one. Just show that you care. Ask how someone is. If you notice something about them, just inquire. Have the courage to do that. Some people reserve that, saying, well, I don't want to ask. I don't want to pry. They'll tell you if they don't want to talk about it. But the fact that you asked goes a long way. Yeah. So show that you care. Number 2, ask and ensure that the employee has the tools and information they need to do their job. Don't assume. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know, but they feel like they're stuck, and just the tools and the information can help them do their job better. Number 3, tell them what good looks like, right? Give them a vision so that you're aligned and on the same page of what good looks like. And that way, when you're giving feedback, you have that standard or that benchmark by which you can have that level setting conversation. So feedback is number 4, and do it often, whether it's praising them for a job well done, acknowledging all of that they've accomplished, and or things that we can improve on. Again, going back to what does good look like? That's why it's so important to establish that. And then the last one is have the grow conversation. Mm-hmm. What else do you want to do? Are you feeling like you could be, contributing in other ways here is your current, how are you liking what you're doing? Is there anything you don't like? Yeah, the first time someone said that I could borrow their admin to do my expense reports, I was over the moon. Because that's one thing I didn't do. And that meant that I could give my energy and my best skills towards some of the other stuff if I took it, because it takes a lot more time to do the stuff you don't like, right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, well, they're really great tips. And, you know, I know recently I've just brought on a new VA in my business, and I brought them on through an agency. And it was quite interesting that the agency took a lot of time up front before I had that VA to educate me on how I could best interact with my team member. And it was a lot of, yeah, it was a lot of things that you've talked about in terms of, you know, having a way to clearly brief them on a job that I need them to do, making sure that they do have all of the tools, building in regular checkpoints with them to have a conversation. And even though the team member is only my VA, I can't even tell you how much time he's saving me already. He's amazing. But, you know, building into that part of the process is two things. It's the growth, so understanding what they want in their career, and also really not just being tactical. My VA understands the bigger picture of what I'm trying to do. They are beginning to get to know me on a personal level, so they know how I'm going to interact with my clients and colleagues and collaborators. So all of those things that you said, I think, are so important. And when I work with clients and they're ready to hire, you know, these are some of the things that I think they are really missing. Like it's, again, it sounds so basic, but you really do have to carve out that time and have a little bit of a set way of you going to work. Otherwise, I mean, I've done it in the past myself. It's like, oh, those people they're no good. They don't know what they're doing. And when I've sat back and reflected on that, it's like, did I really give them a good briefing? Did I really check in enough to make, not micromanaging, but did I check in enough to make sure at the start that they were on the right track rather than waiting till they finished? I'm like, this is not right. So I can completely relate to those ideas for my own business and for some of my clients as well.
Yeah, Natasha, you bring up some really good points. And this is kind of the underpinnings of the emotions that help people be engaged or disengaged in their job, to be fast at what they're doing and confident, or slow and hesitant. And the model that I anchor on is called the CARES model. And CARES is an acronym, and it stands for certainty, autonomy, relationships, equality, and standing. So a lot of what we've just been talking about is providing certainty, having the tools, information, the vision, and clarity about what the job is and what needs to be done. And conversely, then what is the transactional pay compensation for doing those things, right? Autonomy is the other one. I have a very high drive for autonomy. So I work for myself, right? But I learned early on when I had my first team, because I have a high drive for autonomy, I tend to be more hands-off managing other people. Well, it came to my attention that one of my direct reports wanted more direction. She likes to have that clarity. She likes to have a little bit more oversight because she was more junior in her role. And so having that conversation about how much input, how much oversight, how much direction do you want from me, just helps you understand kind of where they're at in terms of needing autonomy to do their job. And it can grow as this person grew in her role and she got more comfortable. She wanted more autonomy and less oversight. And the relationship, understanding how connected someone wants to feel to both you, your other teammates, and the organization. A lot of people think it's just about having Pizza Friday or something like that, where it's really important for people to feel related to your mission, your vision. Like you just said, your new VA is getting the hang of where you're headed, what you're doing. That goes a long way for them lining up and putting power behind what they're doing to contribute to the organization. And then, equality and fairness. Everyone has different positions in the organization. And so in terms of pecking order, there will always be differences, but how people are being treated for their role and for them being the person that they are and that's what this whole diversity and inclusion thing is all about too, right? Is having equality. And then standing and how you're feeling valued and how you're being recognized for your contributions. So don't forget the thank yous. Don't forget to say job well done. And when it's just the two of you, there isn't a public, company meeting to say thank you. But I've seen brilliantly some folks on LinkedIn, Facebook doing shout outs to their employees. It's like telling the world, hey, so-and-so is doing a good job for me here. It's just the two of you. I don't have anyone else to tell. So I'm going to tell the world.
Yeah.
And people love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So some really great, that the CARES model, I think that's a great acronym. And in a big organization, we're expected to do that as small business owners when it's just one person coming on. What I think is really important there is that the same principles that apply in a large organization apply in your small organization. And fundamentally, I mean, we've been there enough. If you treat people well and respect their talents and look out for those talents, you're going to get a lot more out of them. But conversely, what is the nicest, kindest, best way to support an employee who really isn't the right fit or the right skill set for the role? How would you manage or advise people to operate as a leader in those situations?
Yeah, to be clear is to be kind. And so it comes down to deciding, is it a can't do or a won't do? So if they just don't have the skills, if they're just not wired to do the job, even if it was a misstep on your part as a leader, like, I didn't hire right.
Yeah.
I just liked them. I thought maybe we could get through it and it just didn't work out. Own it. Just say, you know what? I don't think I was looking for the right fit, or, just have that candid conversation. There's a great book by Kim Scott, and it's called, Radical Candor. Radical Candor. I love the book because radical candor sounds harsh, but it is saying things honestly that comes from a place of caring, just like saying, hey, you got spinach in your teeth. If you say it because you care, then you're letting a person have an insight that they would not have had otherwise. And it can only be helpful from there, helping them then to find a transition. Like, you know what? I think that you would be great at this, or because they're probably not happy either.
Of course. Yeah.
So let's not make each other miserable, but let me help you. Honor them as a person, own the situation, and part as friends, because you never know. Some employees are boomerangs. They weren't good for this job today. They go get some other experience, and or you grow as an organization. Now you need the skills that they're actually wired for.
Yeah.
Because you probably hired them because you liked them to begin with. And then they might come back.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think being direct and kind and caring, of course, if it's, a more serious situation, perhaps, a theft or whatever that is, or some illegal activity, that might be handled in a different way. But generally, that's my experience as well. If people are not happy in the job, their performance isn't what it needs to be, they're acting out, they're miserable, and those direct but friendly conversations are generally the best for everyone. So I think that's great advice. I've seen some clients in a small business world. Sometimes we see things where people are hiring their friends into roles, And that becomes very difficult to say,
Yeah.
hey guys, this is not working out, but finding some ways to deal with that is important. But I guess that's probably one of maybe the major differences I'm seeing in small business owners than a corporation. Sometimes there's a much closer connection to the individual, or even imagine a family member.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes it's hire the devil, and other times it's just because you do click.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of environment that you want, is where you feel like everyone is your buddy, right? Because I know it's taken some time, but I can have very candid conversations with my sister. Very tough conversations with my sister are the same that I would have with an employee. It's just coming from that radical candor point of view and being honest. I want to touch on one more thing, if you don't mind.
Of course, yeah.
One pinch point I've seen small business owners get into is often they will hire someone who has an hourly rate or a certain salary, the tight budgets that we talked about. And then the employee, after whatever period of time, comes and asks for a raise.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, yikes, I'm on a tight budget. I kind of did hire at the lowest possible salary that I could, but try and have a little bit of empathy too, and think about, okay, what if I was that person and I was working for this salary? If I looked around in a competitive environment, is this a competitive salary, or is this still on the low end?
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's competitive, think about the cost of turnover. Here's another math tidbit that you should put in your pocket and write down. It costs between 1/2 to 2 times a person's annual salary, to replace them. That's not necessarily always the case, but by the time you get a recruiter, lost productivity while they're not doing the job if they leave, trying to train and onboard and upskill a new employee, it adds up pretty quickly. So if you have someone who is, I'm just going to throw out a number, $20 an hour, and they're asking for 25, do the math before you say no.
Mm-hmm.
And it will go a long way to, honor that commitment. And by the way, if they ask for 25, don't give them 24.50. That will make them leave faster than if you said no, unless you've negotiated that. But yeah, that's it devalues the person in their mind if you give them just slightly less than what they asked for. So consider the cost of turnover if you are faced with a decision to increase someone's salary. Now, for all the employees that are listening to this,
don't go and ask your boss for $5 more an hour right away.
Yeah, but have a good rationale for why you deserve the raise. If you have gone above and beyond, if you're doing extra work, if you're contributing in meaningful ways, then be upfront with that and have that value conversation.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you can add additionally to this conversation, some of the other ways that I've seen clients deal with that is also a bonus structure, the team setting goals together, and like a stretch, a next level, and like the way out there with a corresponding bonus structure to it, which for some of my clients that has been extremely effective. And other clients have done things like, one client I have is a builder. He has offered like a company vehicle to the team member as part of a package. The company still owns the vehicle, so it's a benefit for the company, but it's also providing a great benefit for the staff member. And yet the salary piece is kind of still the same. So yes. I think in line with that, it's like the salary, and sort of touches on the empathy piece that you had talked about before. And I know some of your tools enable employers to see this more. It's like, what's valuable for you? What do you value, right? Because the $25 an hour still might not cut it if someone really needs a car.
Yeah. You can get really creative. I recently heard of an employer, obviously it's a little bit larger corporation, that instead of giving raises, there were about 100 employees in their organization. And he offered to, at the end of the year, if the corporation met their goal, he would gift 2 employees a home.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So you think about the rising cost of housing, rent is skyrocketing in many geographies. The cost of getting into a home is prohibitive for so many people. And to have a home that's paid for, that how can you not be happy for those other people too? Knowing everyone has an equal, again, going back to fairness, an equal opportunity to win this home, and everyone would be working hard to help the corporation make the goal in order to win a free house.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, depending on maybe it's a car, maybe it's a bike.
Right, exactly. It's all relative, but I think we're on the same page there, that there are many different ways to reward and incentivize people. And, it's in the spirit of how do you help your employees live their best life? And again, particularly as small business owners, our goal of being entrepreneurs and business owners is time freedom, financial freedom. So if we're wanting that for ourselves, it stands to reason other people are looking for that. Often we bear a big level of risk as the employer, and we need people who like that more stable environment to be our employees. But I think we need to infuse some of our own values and expectations, expect that other people are going to have some of those expectations as well.
Absolutely. And like revenue sharing, nothing will get you invested into seeing a company succeed than knowing that maybe that $5 an hour isn't going to get you to your goal, but maybe 0.5% or 1% revenue share in the company profits will.
Right.
And you can put milestones out. You have to be here for a year, or
right,
to keep them engaged and with you.
Yeah. Well, Rhonda, we've covered a lot of ground in this conversation, and it's just so helpful for people, because more and more I see, particularly in the small business world, the ability to hire and retain good staff is a difference between whether a company can scale or whether they stay in the same place they are. Having more hands on deck and skilled hands on deck and people that can free up yours or my time, is so important. So I think this conversation about how and where to hire, how to be a great leader, how to develop your staff, and how to incentivize them, I think it's so valuable. So if there's any last advice that you would want to share with people, whether it comes to leadership, managing people, or even just being a great citizen in this world, what would that be?
Well, I think that we just all could do our part to bring more humanity into the workplace, and it can have a ripple effect. So on your way to work, let that car cut in front of you. If you see someone with a fussy child, it doesn't hurt to just let them cut in front of you at the grocery store line. If you see someone at work that you haven't really spoken with before, just say hello, ask how they're doing. Any small thing that we can do just to bring the humanity back into the workplace will go a long way. Everyone will have a better day, and we'll bring it home with us at night.
Fantastic. Well, I've had a better day just by speaking to you. So thank you for that. And thanks for sharing your expertise with everyone today. And if you'd like to connect with Rhonda on any information about her turnkey solutions, Retain My Team, or her leadership program that may support you in your growing business, you can visit her at retainmyteam.com. I'm going to leave that information in the show notes as well. So Rhonda, thanks again. So lovely to have you here today.
Great to be with you, Natasha. Thanks a bunch.
And if you'd like my help on strategies to grow your business the simple way, you can visit me at inspireanddrive.com, download my simple business blueprint, or schedule a discovery call. And that's all we have time for today. I invite you to join me in the next episode, where I'll be sharing more expert information and live coaching so that you can have the best and most effective business tips on how to grow your business the simple way.